Steve. This is Stephen Platinum, your friend in wrestling, with what is worth watching this week in wrestling. W to the fifth power. This is our debut episode. What I do is I break down all the wrestling that I consumed on television and YouTube, and I tell you what are the things really worth watching and for what reason. Ready to jump into it? Let's go. We're going to start with AEW Dark Elevation. This is episode 60. What was worth watching? Exactly one thing. Tony Nese against the Steel City Brawler. The Steel City Brawler, of course, is Dylan Frymyer, multiple-time Booker of the Year, and a guy who wrestles also as Sunny Daze. But because they were in Pittsburgh, he got to live his dream, be the Steel City Brawler. What I was surprised by was that he got offense in there. And Tony Nese, who's clearly on the rise in AEW, they're matching him up against Hook, for example. But Steel City Brawler gave a good showing for himself. It's fun to see somebody live out their dream. And it was a great thing. I loved it. Raw Monday night from Knoxville, Tennessee. What's worth watching? The opening segment about the 20 years of Randy Orton, including the Mick Foley thing, and them setting up the match for later. Veer Mahan against Sam Smothers, known by many other names, but great to see him as well in the ring. I mean, between Steel City Brawler and Sam Smothers, it was fun to see Georgia guys really kind of get their due and make people look good. I don't think anybody's taken that weird choke that Veer Mahan does better than good old Sam Smothers, a.k.a. Marvin, a.k.a. many other names, but it was great to see him. Asuka and Becky is worth looking at because of the reintroduction of Asuka and Becky, because of how badly it was done. It was done in the exact wrong order for face-heel dynamics. Becky giving a very sincere speech sounding about how she needs the title and being interrupted by Asuka. It all came across pretty badly. They could have got a bigger pop for Asuka and a bigger reaction for Becky and more anticipation of this match if they had just done it in the opposite order. Does the reintroduction of Asuka really need to be set up by somebody else? No, you bring her out, everybody's happy, and then Becky interrupts, cuts the promo about how she needs that title back, but she, and they could have gone into the history of Becky was like, I gave you that title to hold on to because I knew I could beat you when I came back. They could have done all this great stuff, but they didn't do any of it. They just had them both miss back fists, and it was terribly done. But it's kind of worth watching just to realize the possibilities of what could have been for people who want to aspire to book or write for wrestling. And then the 8-man tag really wasn't worth watching all that much, but the endless RKOs at the end were a lot of fun. What was worth watching on Tuesday night for AEW Dark? Nothing. Nothing really stood out as must-see viewing. NXT, Rick Steiner at the end. Beyond that, nothing really, though they opened with something strong. It really wasn't enough for me to recommend. But Rick Steiner being out there at the end, I actually thought was pretty cool. And, he was never what you would call a great promo. He was a good gimmicky promo. But him being sincere here actually came across rather well. I would say Dynamite was kind of the best show of the week as far as the number of things worth watching. Dax and Cash was phenomenal, and all the Bret Hart tribute stuff in this Owen Hart tournament was really wonderful. The placement at the beginning of the show, I know this is something that AEW does often, but I actually think it threw off the rhythm of the show because of the nature of the match that it was. I think I would have put it somewhere else. Wardlow versus Lance Archer is really great. I'm going to talk about this more in a full disclosure. But Wardlow pulling off that running Hurricane Run, I think we've grown numb to just how amazing it is. And I thought Lance Archer and he did a great job really getting Wardlow over. That fireball spot I thought was incredibly effective with Jericho and Eddie Kingston. Shida and Serena Deeb wasn't the greatest match, but it was an indication that, the party line of, AEW's women's division is terrible. I think that is just one of those things that's just held on for probably a year past its shelf date. Shida versus Serena Deeb was super great, and Serena Deeb being put over and kind of put over on the next level is really wonderful. And then certain spots in the Sammy Guevara and Scorpio Sky ladder match were definitely must-see viewing. On Thursday night, we had Impact Wrestling. Josh Alexander versus Moose in a rematch from Josh Alexander's title win was definitely worth watching. Not much else, though, if I'm being honest. New Japan Pro Wrestling. They always have a good match or two, and this was no exception, but it really wasn't worth going out of your way to see, if I'm being honest. And then finally, we get to Friday night. Drew Galloway versus Sami Zayn cage match opening was very good, and that a superplex off of a cage will never fail to impress me. Raquel Rodriguez against Kat Cardona, better known as Leila Grey, was definitely worth watching. You're watching how to put somebody over when they debut for a show in Raquel Rodriguez, and Kat Cardona making the most out of an opportunity. I would be stunned if Leila Grey does not get signed. Definitely inspiring for aspiring wrestling people out there. And on Rampage, that Baddie's entrance and the finish of Jade's finish on Trish Adora was really fantastic. The idea of Hookhausen and how the crowd was playing with it, reacting was a lot of fun. And Joe against Trent Beretta, I thought was very, very strong. So anyway, that's what's worth watching this week in wrestling. This has been Stephen Platinum, and you've been awesome. Thank you. And this has been Stephen Platinum, your friend in wrestling.